The guys from Read and Reaction, Will Miles, Nick Knudsen, we'll be taking a look at their new magazine. Guys, thanks for joining right here on Gators Breakdown like we do every year when the magazine releases. We have to go to this. DJ Lagway's on the cover, so we have to dive into a little bit of DJ Lagway, of course. Without giving away too much, there was a lot spent on DJ Lagway from multiple angles in the magazine. But in looking at it in all the ways that you did, and looking at him and pairing it with Napier and the offensive style and the play calling, how you put it in one section was, quote, fundamentally Lagway's skills translate to points, which is why everyone is so high on the Gators in 2025. And we've already teased it. You had the section titled Why DJ Lagway is Already the Best Quarterback in the SEC. Like I said, without giving too much away, what can readers expect to find about DJ Lagway in the magazine?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is 10 yards per attempt. Like, that's fundamentally the thing that he does well, is something that's difficult for quarterbacks to do well. And he's got to fill in the gaps on the things that most quarterbacks are good at, and then you have to kind of like build in to being able to go downfield. And you think about that he did it with very limited mobility last year, which is another skill he's going to be bringing to the table this year as well. So I sort of look at it, I think the only real competition for him in terms of best quarterback in the SEC is Manning at Texas. And I think Manning has quite a bit of help there. Manning played pretty well last year, but you look at the other guys, like you look at the quarterbacks on the schedule. You and I make fun of every week Nussmeier at quarterback, and everybody thinks he's great, or some people think he's great. But Aguiar at Tennessee, you got Austin Simmons at Ole Miss, Zach Calzada at Kentucky. He's like a 14th year senior there at Kentucky. Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. Georgia obviously has a roster around him, but Blake Shapen at Mississippi State, Marcel Reed at A&M. These are not guys that we're really talking about in the Heisman race. So there's sort of two components to this. Is one, Lagway really does a lot of things well. Two, there are some things, and we point this out in the magazine too, there are things that he can do to improve significantly. Those are things that he should be able to do pretty well based on his skill set. And then the third thing is that the competition is relatively light in the conference right now, which means, and there's even an entire section that talks about how the SEC was won last year. And really the takeaway, or one of the big messages there, is the quarterback play in the conference from 2023 to 2024 really changed. And that's one of the reasons why we saw a lot more parity last year than we did the year before. And I suspect that parity is going to maintain in 2025, which means if Lagway can take a step up, Florida's going to have a quarterback advantage in just about every game they play, which means obviously that you come into every game 7 points ahead or 14 points ahead at the QB position, and all of a sudden, even if the play calling is a little bit suspect, even if the special teams are a little bit suspect, even if the defense, the tackling is a little bit you still have a chance to win those games, whereas maybe you weren't able to before. So a lot of, to me, I still just go back to the 10 yards per attempt. It's that the big play capabilities that Lagway showed, the accuracy, the ability to pick apart when the defense gave cover 3 and didn't throw a zone at him. Now, when they threw zones at him, there were things that need to improve, obviously, but I think he's going to have the ability to get there. And you think about a guy like Nussmeier, who's coming into his 4th or his 5th season, and he's very, very good from behind the line of scrimmage to 15 yards out. But you go deep, and efficiency drops way off. Lagway's probably the most efficient quarterback in the country on deep throws last year, and then was well below average 15 yards and in. There's no reason for him to be below average at those distances, right? And so I think, 1, the injury, 2, sort of the speed of the game, and 3, just not really getting first-team reps all year long probably lead to that sort of stuff. And I think all of those things are going to be gone. The injury concerns are gone. The first-team reps, he's going to get all of those, and he's not a true freshman anymore. Game's going to slow down a little bit, and I think started slowing down towards the end of the year. And with his ability to run, it's going to slow down even more because he's going to have the ability to escape. So I'm anticipating a big year from Lagway, but even if he puts up the exact same performance that he put up last year over a full 12 or 13 game season, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the conference already. And I think that's sort of the thing, is people like talking about Lagway as being good for a true freshman. And the thing I really wanted to emphasize in here is, no, he's good. right? It wasn't just that he was good for a true freshman; it's that he was good last year.
Don't let Miami fans hear that.
Well, they've got Carson Beck, so they're going to know what good quarterback play is real quick.
I want to get to play calling in just a second with Nick because there's a couple of aspects in the magazine that I really like what he pointed out. But anything play calling wise, Nick or Will, in relation to DJ Lagway. I mean, and I'm bringing that up as in Napier play calling in relation to DJ Lagway.
Yeah, so I have an entire section called the insert. Or it's called Play Calling Corner, and it focuses on a concept called the insert that the Rams in the NFL run specifically to get Puka Nacua open, and they do it against zone defenses, specifically defenses that are designed to drop and keep everything in front of them. And so I think there's some play calling stuff that Billy Napier can do specifically, and he can pull it from. It's actually interesting. I went back and I found plays where the Rams had used it, but I also found plays where Army had used it, and some plays where Penn State had used it a few years ago in their running game. So there are some things that Florida can do from a play calling perspective when the defense decides not to give him those looks that give him the deep shots, to essentially manufacture those deep shots. And I think that's one of the things I'm looking for and hoping that Napier and his crew have figured out is, okay, you have this skill where the guy can hit a deep pass if you give him the opportunity. How do you scheme the deep pass open rather than allowing the defense to dictate by coverage that you're going to have to go underneath? And to me, that's the thing that Napier can hopefully do with the coverage. And, there's a whole 4 or 5 page section that details that concept and sort of the progression of how you can help your running game that way, and then how that helps your quarterback, and then what you can do in the passing game as well.
That's actually that section, the insert section, from a pure football standpoint. That's a great one too. Not even Florida related. Just he's got NFL clips in there. Army. I did love the addition of Army in there. Will, that was great. I think Will called them the offensive power or something in the magazine. But it was just it covers a lot of ground in that insert section. It's a great piece.
I mean, the answer is you steal. Right? You go and you look. If you're Billy Napier, you and Callaway go and look at what other people are doing to combat the very thing that was giving your quarterback trouble, and then you steal. And you go, I'm going to use that concept or that specific thing. And the funny thing is that it's not like Napier has used this concept just in a very limited capacity. And so I think there are opportunities to use this in very specific places. And I'm not sure you got to use it all the time.
Yeah.
But I think if you know you're going to get the defense, it gives you an ability to counter it in a way where, I think that towards the end of the year, there were times Lagway struggled because the defense was dictating to him what he needed to do. And I think when you've got a quarterback of his skill set, if you do things right on the play calling side, you can dictate to the defense what they need to do. Like you can make them uncomfortable with the coverage that they're in, rather than them making you uncomfortable being in the coverage, and dictating things with their coverage. So that's what I've been looking for from Napier.
One of my biggest pet peeves when I hear a coach say, well, the numbers weren't there, so we did this. Well, they're baiting you into doing that. I mean, if all they're doing is showing you numbers and they expect you to, okay, well, they got 8 in the box, or okay, we're going to throw it. Or opposite, and we're going to run it. I mean, okay, you don't let them dictate. That's just, of course, especially with all the disguises defenses do these days and all this stuff. It's just, I always hated that.
I'll put a second one in there, which is be less predictable out of the pistol. that would be my second request.
Well, on that, let me translate it to what Nick had to put in the magazine, because I enjoyed this section too. Can Florida add some fun to the run? The run first, ask questions later, and then one of my favorite ones, Nick and I got together on this earlier this year, was make or break in the middle 8, because that was a big section last year. We all talked about it on the podcast. We talked about it as on the magazine last year, and it all kind of goes in relation to Billy Napier, the play caller. Does he run too much? Can he open up the offense? What does he do before and after halftime? Nick, I really, really enjoyed that section right there.
Well, I'm trying to jump on a name a little early. If Napier's offense does take it off, we'll call it the fun and run. The fun and run, I think we'll go with that little nod to the HBC there. But I really went through the numbers because there is a lot of talk on first down. It does feel like on first down, we just line up shotgun handoff. You're just, whether it's pistol or not, a lot of handoffs. But on the formation conversation first, we went into SIS, Sports Info Solutions, great website for statistics, and we pulled the data on the formations for the season. I mean, you're talking about 98% of your snaps in 11 or 12 personnel out there. And part of the conversation with Callaway becoming the co-OC, and like Will brought this up earlier with Napier, how much Napier's gone on his play. Callaway talked about running a more open offense, especially you got those two receivers coming in, those freshmen with Brown and Wilson. Can they get extra opportunities on the field? One way to do that, maybe get them some 5 wide snaps. I think the numbers say that Lagway is certainly capable of hitting plenty of explosive passes. Do you just give more opportunities to do that out in certain situations, or are we going to see more of the same look? I think we'll be able to tell by the percentage of formations again if it's still Napier running the show entirely, or if Callaway's got a little say in that room, because Callaway did come out in the spring and kind of indicate, hey, maybe we'll do a little more 5 wide. We're going to go to the personnel a little more. So we'll see as the year goes. Like I said earlier, like, I'll believe it when I see it. I gotta see it at this point. I think we're probably going to see some of the similar features. But one of the advantages of going through play by play and really customizing this spreadsheet was I was able to really track what we were doing on first downs too, right out the gate, and it was very conservative because there are times, and a lot of the times too, like Will and I are texting on first down handoff. There we go again. When Lagway, I just tracked Lagway starts because I wanted to. It's not that I didn't care about the rest, but I'm trying to project ahead to 2025 here, right? So his first start against Kentucky, we handed the ball off 92% of the snaps on first down, and so that's 23 out of 25, right? So we handed the ball off 23 times out of 25 snaps on first down, and this is a guy that is capable of hitting that big play, and really every time you're handing it off, you're taking the ball out of his hand for the opportunity to do so.
Well,
so
to be fair, that was one of the offense's best performances of the year.
Right, against Kentucky. I'll give you that. I will give you that. But I'm not specifically criticizing the Kentucky. I'm using the numbers to illustrate the fact that we are. Hey, there's some good performances too. Florida State was very similar too, right? Florida State was very similar. I don't know if I'd call that a great offensive performance against Florida State though, but it just. I think there's a tendency, and of course, freshman quarterback, right, trying to protect the guy to some extent. I'm sure there was some of that going on. I think opening it up on first down specifically will help a lot with this offense. I think it gives Lagway the opportunity to hit a few more plays, put the ball in Lagway's hands a little more to try to stretch the field, because I think he's earned the right to do that this year. Whereas last year, maybe you're trying to protect a freshman.
Now, what I want to go back and look at now is, you got me interested. When they would try a first down deep shot, and it was incomplete, how many times did they follow that up with a run?
Right.
125%.
And Dave, I could send you the spreadsheet. You could actually pull that. You could pull that data yourself.
There we go.
I'll send you that spreadsheet, and you could actually look that up. But I will say this, like, you look at it.
Isn't that a lot of people's criticism? Like, it would be very predictable. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of coaches would fall into that. It's deep shot on first down, and for Napier, it's around midfield. You're going to take that deep shot. It falls incomplete. I mean, 80% of coaches are probably going to run it the next play. So it's not necessarily a hit on Napier, but it does fall into the more of the predictability part of the offense.
Well, and again, one of the numbers we have in there, Lagway on 43 first down pass attempts hit 10 explosive plays, 20-plus yards. You're talking 25% right there almost, right? So you're talking almost just shy of 25%. 1 out of every 4 pass plays, the guy's hitting an explosive play. Give that guy more opportunity. Give your home run hitter more swings. That's kind of what the numbers are saying right there.
What you got, Will?
I mean, it's time to put away the tidy whities. That's what it really boils down to, man. It's like, Billy Napier is like early stage Bryan Cranston and Walter White in Breaking Bad, right out there in the desert with his tidy whities on. At some point, you got to switch over, man. It's like time to take a risk. And I think, look, I mean, what's the point in having the quarterback like Lagway if you're not going to take it. Why have a Lamborghini if you're not going to take it out of the garage? Right. And I think that's really the thing. And look,
and it's not just Lagway, it's the receivers too.
And is it possible that you might crash the Lamborghini? Sure. More likely if you're in Georgia, but sure. You know, the reality is. Sorry, I couldn't resist. But the reality is that you got to give it a try. And I think some of the numbers that Nick's really poured over here just suggest that not only do you need to give it a try because, hey, Florida needs more explosive plays. Florida, we'd love to see a more explosive offense. It's that when given the opportunity, he succeeded.
Right.
And so, it's not like there's not a track record now of success. And yes, sometimes the defense is going to dictate that you hand the ball off. But a lot of times those safeties come creeping up because you have that tendency. So even flipping it a couple of percentage points means 3, 4, 5, 6 extra big plays over the course of a couple of games. So no more tighty-whitey Walter White, Billy Napier. Russ Callaway needs to buy him some boxer shorts or something.